Good afternoon, colleagues. Good afternoon, everybody. A little bit of a technical issue with some of the participants and panelists, so I'm hoping that everyone gets in. Really want to welcome you to this great session today. We're talking, let's get practical. So I think that is wonderful to move from the philosophical and the academical and understanding what needs to happen, but actually doing it. So we're very glad to have you all with us. The event's starting right now. We're a minute or so behind schedule. So welcome and yeah, thanks for joining us. We're glad to say that we got more than 50% of the audience are teachers. So we're really looking at doing things in the classroom. Teaching happens with and through teachers. It's a great experience to be sharing with you guys today. So yeah, just a little bit of housekeeping. We've got good fun. We've got a panel of speakers today, and I'm going to introduce them very shortly. We have Q&A that we're going to be taking, and we also have a competition. But just to start the day, maybe just something from the FEDSAS Center for Technology. We're looking at this year with an @ sign, a bracket, an @ sign, and an exclamation mark, because 2021 started a little bit in uppercase. And it is somewhere in code, a little bit deur mekaar. So if you hit shift on your keyboard and you type in 2021, you will get @ bracket, @ exclamation mark. It seems like code. It's deur mekaar. It's confusing us, but it's still on the keyboard. So we've got to navigate this uppercase, this on steroids year that really got us all by surprise, or did it? I don't know if we can really say 2021 is a surprise. And I want to say, should we prepare for the 21st century, or should we just prepare for the third wave? And I think the question is clear. We've got to prepare ourselves for what's happening around us, with us, and the future was never certain. We just know it far better now than we did before. On today's agenda, we've got our panel. I want to quickly greet them all. We've got Matthew Hains, a teacher, an MIE, an expert in using technology in the classroom. We got Susanna Ackerman from Acer Africa, the education lead. She's going to be speaking to us about devices. We've got Elsabe Hart, that's from Microsoft. So our two sponsors for the day, Acer and Microsoft, will be sharing with us what they have available. And then we're closing off with the CEO of Schoolnet, Omashani Naidoo. So welcome to the panel. They're going to be introducing each other as they speak. They're going to speak in Siri here. Matthew's going to go first. Before we get away with that, let's just quickly share our competition ideas for the day. Oh, sorry, I missed it again. We did ask you, please type in the Q&A box. Please be interactive, ask us questions. We are going to be sharing a resource folder. So everything that we see today will be shared with everyone. It's going to be on a QR code as well if you want to just, fast track to it. But please ask questions. And then the competition, you would have seen in the invite, there's a 2,500 Rand Acer shop competition. We want you to tweet. Let's go social with social media and use the handle @AcerAfrica. All the other hashtags are there, so you can include that, hashtag FEDSAS Tech, hashtag Microsoft Edu, and all the other handles there. But we will be monitoring the Acer Africa account, and someone that will be retweeting something of today will be the lucky winner towards the end of the session. The Center for Technology has a role or a means of existence, and over the past few years we've been saying we've got to learn as we live, we've got to teach as we live, we've got to manage as we live, and govern as we live. We really have to mirror our living environments with our learning environments. This is the way we live now. This is the way we act now. We use screens, we use Wi-Fi, we do connect, we do e-filing and e-banking as if it's just filing and banking. Yet we still struggle to put ourselves into this natural mode of the 21st century. For 2021, we decided to have two specific focus points. And the one is, this is how we roll, people. This is just how we do it. There's nothing emergency about life. It's just natural. In essence, if things change, we just adapt to it. We've got Netflix and DSTV catch-up. It's just natural. We just adapt. It's not an emergency. The second focus point is one size fits one. And I love today's chat about that, because I don't think that everything in the market is for all schools, but everything at a school is also not for all learners. We've got to fix whatever we do, slightly personalized. And one size fits one, the value that you get in blended learning, the learner DNA, the teaching DNA that comes out is really critical. So maybe just as a little bit of a backdrop. I just want to share that piece of resource. We'll put it in the resource folder as well, but that's a magazine that we produce as the Center of Technology. It's a previous version. So if you want to grab that with your QR code and your scanner, it's a lucky read. It's a lacquer read, no lucky prize there, but it's a nice read for the coffee table. It's not a 10-minute read. It's really something more meaty. So if you want to have a look at that. Talking about today, let's get practical. If I speak to audiences on technology, I think there are 3 I's that really get me. The one is innovation. We've got to talk innovation. The other one is integration. And then we've got to look at implementation. I can spell, but I put the in there because implementation doesn't feel like you're immersing in it. You don't get into it. And to get practical is to really put hands, feet, dirt, everything into it. I've got the picture of a JoJo tank there, and just a little bit short story of my life. For the past 10 years, I've been thinking rainwater goes to waste, and I did nothing about that. But every day I talk about it. Every day I think that rainwater goes to waste. And the beginning of this year, I implemented, I got practical, I bought pipes, a tank, a motor, and I am flushing my toilets at home with rainwater. That costs me effectively nothing, but saves the environment. But I got practical. And if you can frame that in today's talk, we're going to get practical. So get your hands dirty, go buy a pipe, go buy PVC elbows, go buy a tank, and start putting it in. And when you see it happening first, when you realize that it makes an impact, the joy is over the moon. So with that, I'm going to jump into, oh, there's your resources folder, but I will share that in the chat box later on. I'm going to jump into it and introduce Matthew Hains. He's a teacher in the Gauteng area. Matthew, you're going to introduce yourself and tell us all about what you want to do. Share with us your thoughts, your journey on blended learning. Thanks so much. I'm going to stop sharing my screen if that will help. And we will continue. Matt, the floor is yours. The audience is clapping. Welcome to the stage.
Oh, they're clapping. Thanks, guys. Yeah, all right. Thank you so much, Riaan. Well, my name, I'm going to introduce myself in my slides in a minute. I'm a teacher in Gauteng. And I don't know if it's raining by you guys, but it's raining the same. It's raining like crazy over here. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys now. Hold on 1 second. And I think it will be that one. No, there we go. All right. Hopefully that's going to be okay with you guys. Can you guys all see that all right? You should be all right. I don't hear anyone, so I'm sure it's all good. And I'm also going to start my stopwatch because I was told I have a certain amount of time. Okay, hold on. Start. Okay, cool. Right. Well, let me introduce myself. My topic is called How I Cloned Myself and Got My Learners to Teach Themselves. And I'm wondering if you're thinking what I'm thinking. Yes, cloning is illegal. But however, I'm not talking about actual cloning. This is something that's very, very very cool. And I tried it out last year, and you're going to see a little bit more about that now. So let me go ahead and find my, hold on, I'm in the wrong place again. And there, gotcha. Okay, so this is me. Okay, that's what I look like for real. That's my actual photo. And actually, that's what I look like most of the time because yes, well, you know why. And then, of course, where am I? I'm in South Africa. I'm in Gauteng, Joburg, at a lovely, lovely school up here in Bedfordview. What do? I'm a computer applications technology teacher. That's what I do. It is the best subject of all. And there's some other cool stuff as well. I'm an author, which is super cool. I have a digital classroom resource notebook, a book that I authored with Cambridge University Press, and I'm very proud of that. I'm also a master's student, about to get my master's this year. Okay, I hope so. I'm also in charge of developing the ICT skills at the school that I work at. I'm helping teachers, to get their ICT skills up and running. Now, this, you may have been familiar with this. We had an important announcement last year, about a year ago. In fact, it was probably just a year ago. And everybody was told, guys, there's no more school at school. You got to do school at home, okay? There was a good reason for that. Yes, there was. That was the reason. That was the reason. And everybody was like, what? No, this is crazy. This can't be. What? Are you crazy? What? This is insane. And yes, it was a little bit insane. It was something we'd never learnt or tackled before. And it was time to get out those tools and do some gardening, because we probably weren't going to be at school for a while. But no, those are not the tools I'm talking about. These are the tools I'm talking about, guys. The special IT skills that a cat teacher would have naturally and be imparting to their other colleagues at the school. So you can see, I thought, okay, it's time I took together all my skills. What do I know? What can I do? What are the tools that I have that will help me to get through this and help my students as well, and help all the teachers that I'm in charge of? What are all the things that I can put together and work with? And this is what I came up with. I thought, I need to clone myself. I need to be able to have lots of me either online or in my classroom, depending on who is where. And this is what I came up with. I'm going to show you guys a very quick video clip, and it's about 1 minute and 10 seconds. Enjoy. Or something, or unzip the whole. Well, what are you gonna do? Unzip the universe. Unzip the universe. Cool.
And those are your functions, yeah, baby.
So, in a nutshell, everybody, I hope that that has helped to blah blah blah, blah 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 blah. Okay, I hope that that was good for you. Okay, so that's a lot of fun. And so what I've done is I have duplicated myself, I've replicated myself, and I made lots and lots and lots and lots of videos and lessons and all kinds of stuff. And I then spread myself around the class, and I decided to put everything in OneNote. Now, I use Microsoft OneNote for pretty much everything, and I'm going to show you how and why. Why do I do this, and how do I do this? So first of all, we are using Microsoft Teams in our school, so all of our subjects, everything we do is already in Microsoft Teams. OneNote just integrates into that beautifully. When you have a class notebook and you've created that in your team, it is just the most beautiful thing. My students can access their notebooks straight there in Teams if they want to. If they weren't even using OneNote, they'd go straight into Teams and it would be there. Also, what's really nice is I can just put my files onto my pages in OneNote. So I can have as many pages as I like, and sections and divisions. I can put my OneNote files there. I can embed them. And what I really like about that, though, is that I don't lose any work. I don't have to save it somewhere or upload it somewhere or put it in a special location. It's there on the page. And if they have their own pages and they put their files there, I can access their files. I can link to anything that I want to. I can link to pages. I can link to activities and solutions. Tagging stuff. Love tagging stuff. I created all these different tags, and what I do is I use these tags to tag the content in the various pages or areas of my notebook so that students can see, okay, this is a lesson, these are keywords, that's a video. It's just nice to use tags as a visual representation of my content. It also means that they can find stuff when they're looking for it. My favorite part, multimedia content. Guys, we can put audio files, video files, anything that's got media involved, you can embed it onto your pages. I have everything on a YouTube channel. It links in there. They watch it there on the page, or they go to the YouTube channel, and I can have all my lessons there, accessible at any time. They can stop a lesson, they can go back, play it again. It's really, there's so much flexibility in the way that I've put this together for my students. What I love about this is handing out pages. If I create a page of content for my students and I want to extend it to all of them, OneNote does that for me. I just create my page, I tell it what page I want to send to everybody, click my button, and off it goes. Okay, very, very cool. So everything that they need, the learning material, the lessons, the activities, anything that I create or that they need access to, links to resources, it's all there in one central location, one central access point. So that means actually at the end of the year, they have a complete digital portfolio with all their work and all their resources. So no more papers and books and textbooks and stuff all over the place. They can actually go straight into their notebook and access everything that they need. What does this mean? Okay, what does this mean? So I've got all this stuff in the notebook. This is what it means. That's me. That's not me. Okay, but that's probably what I would look like if I wore brown pants, but I don't wear brown pants, so there you go. That would be me without this notebook. Okay, the teacher would be in front and we would just be doing passive learning. I'm in the front, I'm telling you how it is, you just keep up with me and let's just go. Right? However, because I'm there and there and there, I'm all over the class. Literally, physically, I am literally all over the class. I am now engaging with the students that actually need the help. The ones that are like into the lesson and they got the material and they know what's going on, they're carrying on. They're just going from lesson to lesson, activity to activity. Those that need help, now I can work with those. I don't expect everybody to be working at the same pace. All right, have a look at the notebook. I've got a little start section there. It tells the students what is in the notebook, what they're going to be doing for the year. All my lessons are already planned ahead of time. Every single lesson for the whole year is there. You can see I've got all the, there's a lesson over there. There's a title. Let me just go back. There's a title of the lesson. I give keywords. So if they want to maybe do a search, like, I remember there was a lesson on bullets, but I can't remember which lesson, they can do a search. And again, why I tag things. There is the video link over there. Any resources I can put in there, and there are the links to the activities. When they get to an activity, the instructions are there, the files are there. They can even go back to the lesson to watch the lesson again, or go and check the solution and see what the solution is doing. So that's actually pretty cool. And they can put their work underneath that line. They just place their work there. Every student gets their own page. They put their stuff on their page. Textbooks, books, ebooks, articles, anything that I find of interest or resources that I need to let them have access to, I put in their notebook. They can access that at any time. I like having my own teacher-only section. I can keep all my work and planning in there. That's very handy. Here's one of my students, like for real, this is really one of my students. That's their learning path. They follow this learning path and they work their way through the lessons as I've suggested for them at their own pace. I can tag their content, and the nice thing I like about tags is that when they are looking for things, they just search for the tags. I've got a tag called please check, and I say, guys, just look up the please check tag. So when I tag something with please check, they know where to go, they can find the work, and that's what they're looking for. So in a nutshell, and I say that a lot, what I mean is in conclusion, OneNote has enabled me to do the following, guys. I can track my students' progress via tags. I can see exactly where all my students are at any time in their notebook. I've enabled my students to have self-led learning. They're teaching themselves. That's pretty cool. Isn't that what every teacher wants? They're teaching themselves. It's beautiful. I'm almost out of a job now. And I can now provide guidance and assistance for the students that actually need it, instead of expecting everyone to be at the same location or the same pace with me all the time. So this is how it's freed me up. And last year I did grade 10s. This year I'm busy with grade 11s. Next year I will do grade 12s. Guys, 11 minutes and 25 seconds. Thank you very much. I'm available online on Twitter, mhains online. MatthewHains.online is my website. And if you have any queries, any questions, I would be happy to answer them. But please feel free Thank you, guys. I'm going to hand over to Elsabe Hart, one of the coolest Microsoft people I've ever met, and super helpful. She knows so much stuff. It's awesome. Elsabe, thank you. I'm going to hand over to you. Your mic is off, Elsabe.
It always has to happen to someone in a session, right? So it had to be me today. Awesome. Okay, no, so thank you, Matt. It's really super cool to work for Microsoft. And just to remind you all, to get social, we request that you use the hashtags Microsoft EDU, FEDSAS Tech, Acer EDU, and remember there's something up for grabs at the end. So make sure that you also tag Acer Africa. So I want to share some good news. I know that many schools are requesting Office 365 and Teams to use at their school, and we want to make those tools available to everybody, no matter where you are, at which school, in which province. And the best way for you to do that is to go to aka.ms/get Office 365. But what I want to do to show you in a few minutes is just how exactly you go about getting your licenses or getting access to your Office 365. So the good news is that most of our provinces in South Africa now has a provincial tenant for Office 365, which gives you access to all of the Office 365 applications, including Microsoft Teams. So you can go into any of use any of the provincial departments that you're showing here on the screen. And what you'll actually do is you'll need your PASEL number. So you will go sign in to office.com, use your PASEL number at your province.org.za. And if you are successful and you already have that license assigned to you, you will immediately have access to Office 365 and all the applications. If not, so this is where you need to pay attention if you don't have Office 365 at your school yet, or maybe you're not sure if you do, you can go straight to aka.ms/get Office 365. This window will appear, and in here it says get started with Office 365 for free. You'll notice that there's a little enter your school email address block. All you do is you enter your school email address at myschool.co.za. I recommend you use your provincial email address that's been given to you by your school, or try your PASEL at your province.org.za. You click Get Started, and the next window will appear. So it will ask if you are a student and a teacher. Now, I don't think there's any students joining us today, but if there are any parents joining us today and you want to check if your student or your child have access to Office 365 and Teams, then you'll do exactly the same thing. You'll go to office.com, enter their school email address, check if that gives you access. If not, go to aka.ms/get Office 365 and then do the same step. Enter that email address into that bar, click Get Started, and move on to this window. If you're a teacher, you click I'm a teacher. If you're a student, you click I'm a student. Most of the tenants have multi-factor authentication set up, which just means that there's an extra step before you get access. So you might need to enter a cell phone number and then request for a PIN to be texted to you, or you can have a phone call that also just gives you the PIN to enter. Then you could get a message that says no need to sign up. You already have a license for Office 365 education, and then it's as simple as clicking OK, got it. You'll sign into your tenant or your Office 365, and you can click on the application, any one of those. You can go to OneNote, you can go to Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of those. If you get this message that says whoops, from the email address you entered, it looks like your school isn't on our list of eligible institutions. It could also just mean that your school does not have Office 365 just yet.
Elsabe, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
We can't see your presentation if you're sharing something. I'm not sure if you are. Just wanted to notify you about that.
All right, let me go there.
Thank
All right,
you.
so you've just been looking at me. Okay, right. Let me quickly go through my slide. All right, can you see it now?
Not yet.
Still not. Okay, right. Must be in. There we are. That's an error on my side. I apologize. Better?
Great.
Great. Okay, I apologize for that technical glitch. I'm just going to continue and skip to the slide where I was at. So firstly, we looked at the different provinces that have Office 365 tenants. You'll use your PSAL at province.gov.za. Go to office.com. That's your very first step. Sign into office.com. You'll see this window with all of your applications. If not, then you'll need to check if you have an Office 365 account. You will just go to the aka.ms link /get Office 365, enter your email address, and if you are successful, which means you already have a tenant included, you will click on either I'm a student or I'm a teacher. I mentioned that. This is the slide that talked about multi-factor authentication, and you will need to enter a cell phone number here to be able to get a text or to get a phone call with your PIN, which is your unique identifier. And if you get this message, then you have been successful. Then you have Office 365 at your school. You can go straight ahead and use all the different applications. Office 365 is not just one application, it is multiple different applications. So you can use things like OneNote, like Teams, like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and all of those and a lot more. If not, you could get this screen that says whoops, and this is where I just want to pause for a moment. So if your school does not have an Office 365 account, it does not mean that you are not eligible. It just means that either your school has not set it up or that you are not using the correct credentials or correct email address.
Elsabe,
Check
sorry,
that you-
sorry about that. I still have people on the WhatsApp line telling me that they can't see your screen, so I'm not looking at the same screen as them. Is there something we can check, Mo? Can you just help us out there? It looks from my presenter mode that your screen is shared, but on the live screen it's not shared.
What I'll do, if not, then I'll cut my camera, but let's just hear what the producer says. Okay, he says it's all good, so I think I'm going to continue. Okay, right, so this is the page that gives you the... Oh, now I have my echo. This Teams meeting is giving us a few technical glitches today. Okay, so if you've entered your email address and you get this message on the screen, it just means that either your school have not set up the tenant or you don't have Office 365 linked to that account yet. I do recommend that you first use your Provincial Department of Education email address, and I'll share more details on that just now. And also just double check that you have entered the correct email address. That's the PSAL number at province.gov.za. These are the provinces, just again, for those that have missed the first few slides, that have tenants already. So it's most of the provinces, and that's why it's important for you to follow up and to check that you have access to your provincial tenant, because there's all the applications is available then to you. This slide I wanted to share today. These are the contact details that I have for some of the provinces. We don't have all the provinces' contact details. I don't work with them all directly, but these are the ones that I know that you can contact. The first one is the Western Cape, and I know that most of our attendees today are actually based in the Western Cape. We also have people from Gauteng. I think many of the attendees today is actually from Gauteng as well. And then we have the Eastern Cape, and then I'm sure there's some of you from the other provinces as well. You can scan that QR code that will take you to the Western Cape e-portal for you to get all the different information around technical support. For Gauteng, you can email the GDE IT service desk, and for Eastern Cape, you can also just email support@ecdoe.gov.za. Then if you still are stuck, or you're still struggling, or you still have questions, then the Microsoft team is here to help you. We can help you, put you in touch with the right people, give you the necessary support. We can even support you with other Microsoft applications such as Minecraft, or put you in touch with a global training partner if you need training at your school for any of the applications. So you can also go ahead, scan that QR code. It'll take you to a form, submit that form, and then we'll get back to you. And I think that is the end of my presentation. And I want to thank you very much. And again, I apologize for all our technical issues today. I'm then going to hand over to Susanna Ackerman. I've known Susanna for a few years now, and we've worked together on many different projects around the country. And all of these wonderful things that is Microsoft and the software that I showed you, Teams, OneNote, all the great things that Matt also talked about, none of it will be possible without the hardware. So I wanted to introduce you to Susanna, the education lead for Acer, to share more about the wonderful Acer devices that they have for education specifically. Thanks, Susanna. Susanna, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Good. All good, we can hear you now.
Good. I think we're all in this, yeah, something went wrong. Oops. Okay, but let me start again by saying welcome everyone that's been joining our webinars for the last couple of topics we discussed. It's exciting to be back and exciting to discuss what's important to every one of us. So previously we looked at the esports conversation. We also looked at devices for learning. And today, as you've, I think, heard others talk, it's all about the blended learning environment. And today I want to share with you on, how to optimize your device for that special environment. Previously, we looked at what the market trends tell us, marketing agencies tell us that, blended learning is here to stay, bring your own device is here to stay. But I think from our own experiences, we can also say that the whole teaching and learning environment has changed, and we need to make it practical for us. How are we going to work around what's happening in our teaching and learning environment? The reality is that us as teachers are constantly in need of change. We need to adapt to change. If we had this conversation a couple of years ago, it would have been, yes, teachers need to become facilitators of learning. And now where we are is, as you heard Matt was explaining, we are becoming more and more of content creators rather than content consumers. So we need to develop our own content by using the right tools. We need to be able to teach from anywhere, anytime, and that's how our roles have changed. So what if you don't have the right tools? I think having the wrong tools or tools that's not supporting your learning and teaching environment can be frustrating. Therefore, there's important things that you need to consider. I think at this point, we basically have two options. The one is either to buy a new device that can support this new teaching and learning environment, because previously you could have your files loaded on a flash drive, go to the staff room, use the staff computer, move home and work on your desktop from home. But nowadays, the environment doesn't allow you to walk around with a desktop under your arm. You need to be mobile, and therefore we need to reconsider our tool. So you either have to buy a new device or you need to optimize the one that you have. And that is what we will be looking at today. Acer has a lot of devices, but the one that I want to focus on today is our spin range. If you decide to buy a new device, there's actually a lot of things that you need to consider, but specifically in the mobile learning environment or the blended learning environment, you need to look at mobility. As I just said, you can't walk around with the desktop under your arm. You need to be able to move around from classroom to home to wherever you are, and you need to be able to present from there. So mobility is key. And if you look at mobility, it also implies that you don't really want a device that's so heavy that it breaks your back. So important to look at the weight of the device and also to be able to use the device in different modes. The one that's on the picture is a tent mode, for example. So if you have a small group of learners, you can do a presentation in tent mode if you're in the classroom, or you can put it into tablet mode and you can walk around in the class and present while connecting to a wireless projector. This device was also selected by the DB for the e-learning or their e-library project. Why? Because it enables and enhances mobility. So for us at Acer, mobility is extremely important. The touch feature then also enables an environment where you can easily move around in the classroom. The next thing that's really important in any classroom is management. So be it the management of the learners, the files, whatever you need to manage, there's always something. If you have a connected environment, Teams, OneDrive, all of those tools will enable you to manage files and all of those things. However, if you are in a LAN environment, all Acer devices comes with Acer Classroom Management, which allows you to do a classroom management environment, manage the class in a smaller LAN setting. Productivity is obviously very important, and that links to battery life, for example. You don't want to run around looking for a plug to charge your laptop. All Acer devices will give you at least 8 hours battery life, and that's important in this blended learning environment. Things to consider. There's a lot more, but I just wanted to highlight a few of these. You can also visit Shop Acer, but where you can redeem the voucher, but there's also different examples of devices. The next question would be how to optimize your device. If you can't buy a new device, then obviously you need to look at how to make the best of the device you have. One of the most important things is to declutter. The other day I heard that there's actually something nowadays that's called cyber hoarding. That implies that you just can't get rid of your old files. This makes your computer slow. There's just too much information on this machine, and it requires the resources of your device to be used up by old files and things you don't need. So first step would be to go back and declutter. Organize your files into folders, take them from your laptop, put them on OneDrive to make sure that the resources on your device is actually used for what it's supposed to be used. Update your settings. We've created the document that will help you to change some of your Windows settings to optimize your device for when you have to present or when you have to teach using your device. This document will be shared in the resource folder. And then lastly, most importantly, is maintain your device. Do not think you can run around without an antivirus on your device. If you connect to the internet or you use flash drives from other devices, it's important to make sure that you have an updated antivirus. Microsoft has products for that. You can contact your Microsoft support people at school. They can share with you. So that is really important to make sure that you update your antivirus. The other thing that's important is that if you've deleted a lot of files, you might need to consider defragging your computer. That is also a feature on the tool settings of your device. In summary, if you want to move like not Mick Jagger, but like Matthew Hains in this case, you need to make sure that your tools are optimized. You need to have the right software that speaks to your hardware, and it all becomes a seamless solution that supports your blended learning environment. Without that, you'll be frustrated. I'm now going to hand over to Omashani Naidoo. Omashani has been working in this public school space for a very long time. She knows how to make it very practical. And without further ado, Omashani, over to you.
Thank you, Susanna. I'm following a fabulous list of presenters. So Matthew presented a wonderful sort of realistic or idealistic perspective of where digital learning and teaching can get to. Elsabe provided a software perspective of where you can have access to a range of free resources. Susanna provided you with the hardware and the sensible and practical sort of elements around how one can leverage leverage off and optimize hardware sort of uses. And I'm hopefully going to be able to provide you with some savviness around how do we do this teaching that's expected of us, and what is the sort of framework that we work with. Just a quick reminder that remember, we have a Twitter competition at the moment. Acer is giving you let me not give you the number, but a fabulous voucher. So please do tweet. Please use the hashtags and the handles at Acer Africa, at FEDSAS1, and at Microsoft EDU. So please plug in your responses, take photographs, just plug in your thoughts around what you're taking from this sort of session. So this afternoon I'm presenting Blended Learning, a tale of two approaches. So I'm the executive director. My name is Omashani, and Schoolnet has been responsible for over 24 years for teacher professional development, and we do teacher professional development like not like many organizations do, because we have a very practical sort of and sensible approach to how we do training. So to kick it into gear, let me just change my screen. Right, so what is this difference between this face-to-face and the blended learning? And essentially the difference is that in a face-to-face sort of teaching and learning situation, we know that we've valued the human interaction, we've valued the social engagement, because schooling is not about just learning content. It's about actually working through a range of different sort of mental abilities. How do you socialize with others? What is the teamwork framework that we can work within? And what face-to-face provides is instantaneous support. So where there's a child struggling, or where there's an overachiever, you're able to get that instant support and guidance from your teacher. And of course, you have the guided practice and application. So now with this blended learning story, how does it change? And if it changes, how can it sort of change without it being an issue? So digital teaching, like Matt sort of displayed to you, it provides a multi-sensory teaching and learning approach, which means that you have a range of different activities that you can bring in. And this is where video, podcasts, audio. So now you start thinking about, okay, what are the different senses that are sort of activated and engaged within a teaching and learning environment? And of course, it does require prior design of learning. So it's no longer appropriate for you to just use a PDF of a lesson plan that you've got in a file for the last 30 years. It's requiring that you actually consciously consider, what are the things that my students need from this content pack? What are the issues that we need to be thinking about? And how do we design that learning interaction to bridge that gap? And of course, through the digital experience, we then providing a digital literacy as well as digital experience. And if not us through the K-12 sort of system, when then? Because if we are looking for our learners to come out of schooling with digital savviness and literacy, then we must give them that experience within the schooling sector. And it's up to us as our teachers to actually give them that kind of experience. But how do we do that? The first sort of thing is, do not wait for anybody else. And my previous sort of topic was meant to be no more waiting for Superman. And the whole sort of element here is thinking through our inability sometimes to use what we have, to work with what is within our grasp, and not rely on somebody else to come and save the day. So it's always we're waiting for the district, or we're waiting for a policy change, or we're waiting for the principal, or we need to stop waiting. Like Riaan was saying, haul out the JoJo, get the pipes, get started, start doing something. And so how can we sort of enable this change in the group? So now we're sort of thinking, okay, so what are the resources available to you? And start looking at, do you have smart boards? Do you have tablets, trolleys of tablets that may have been donated? Do you have a computer lab that might be there? Are there old cell phones that have been donated? Do your kids have access to know what resources are available? And resources are not only in terms of the tangible, where you're thinking about hardware. You're now needing to be thinking about, okay, so what about the human resources that you have? Do you have teachers like Matt who are really overachievers in terms of the different sort of skill sets and competencies with digital? Can you leverage off their skills to actually do some staff development? Can you work with other people that you might be aware of within your community? Are you part of a professional learning network that can actually bring in some added dimension? So use those resources that are available to you. The third sort of element is to look at, so now that you're implementing these things, start looking at what are the gaps? Where can I augment? What do I need to be doing to think about, working with the resources that I have optimally? And then the fourth element, we make a plan. Think creatively about how you mitigate these gaps. So where, for example, you don't have resources, try and create them yourself. So for example, if you're a science teacher and you don't have access to experiment sort of elements, and so now start thinking about, okay, so can you use simulations? Can you sort of work with sort of ways in which you can record yourself, perhaps using a well-resourced school's laboratory, and then trying to put those sort of things together. And the last sort of element is to innovate and get the learners engaged, and that is the key element. If our children are active in our classrooms, and classrooms is a word that we're using very loosely because it can be virtual classrooms, digital distance classrooms. So classrooms is whatever shape or form learning happens. And then moving on, so what does this change story look like? And I know this is a very complicated looking diagram, but Kathy Schrock's Guide to Everything is basically a way that she's sort of tagged a range of different digital tools and applications, and she's mapped it to Bloom's taxonomy. And you start looking at, okay, so remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, but it's looking at, okay, so what are the traditional means of this change story that we've been seeing thus far? And part of that is, where you're looking at traditional and now looking at ways, and how do you ensure that our children start creating and evaluating and become producers and creators of knowledge, and start looking at how we can augment what that looks like. So I'm suggesting you actually find Kathy Schrock's Guide to Everything, because it's going to give you a range of different sort of elements around there. I'm just going to scroll through now. And part of the change story is to actually think about, how do we do old activities in old ways? And part of that could be, I used to use a chalkboard, now I've got a smartboard. It's still the old activity, and you're just using new digital technologies to actually get that right. Old activities in new ways. So you used to be doing essays in your notebooks. Now you're using digital tools like Word and sort of blog posts to actually complete that activity. New activities in new ways. Typically, you'll be looking at a picture in a history textbook. Now you can actually go and watch a video or a simulation about that particular sort of element. The pedagogy wheel, which is Alan Carrington's fabulous sort of creation here, but it looks at the SAM-R model and starts saying, okay, so how do we substitute our behaviors? How do we get to the stage of innovation that we are thinking about? And Matt is sort of displaying that innovation and that kind of creativity. But let me just move very quickly to, how do we implement these things? And I had some change stories here. And Mukuru is a teacher from Limpopo, and she was a top 10 finalist for the 2020 Global Teacher Prize. And basically all she did was to look at her primary school learners and start thinking about, okay, well, how do I get Indigenous knowledge from my rural community into the teaching dynamic? And she basically started thinking about, okay, so I've got a range of digital Indigenous sort of knowledge within my community. How can I get my community members to be talking about it? And that's essentially her innovation here. Nikki Wallace from St. Sips in the Western Cape. So basically teaching typically in the ALLOS curriculum. And then she says, okay, why don't our kids then put together a movie that actually gives you some tangible sort of elements that can be shared with a greater audience? So you're then teaching more than what the curriculum is asking you to do. Charlie Wiggle from Durban. So he's got a paid forward for the blind, essentially reading stories, a literacy program, but he's an IT guru. So he's looking at stories and leveraging on social media to actually get these stories out for differently abled individuals. Ronald Koch from Deersville, he innovative. I mean, he built a box that had his cell phone with his camera going through and basically recording his lessons. So innovation comes to us in various ways, and it's basically us as teachers looking at ways to augment what our particular challenge is and trying to find what that might look like. Puti is a retired principal, so those of you that are close to retirement, start thinking about how can you use your skills in education to actually help others. And she is a mystery Skype guru, but looking at ways in which you can connect with the rest of the world. And her community is actually doing that in Mankweng in Limpopo. So Asmaya, also from Durban Girls, here again, history curriculum. You've got apartheid laws, but why not get our kids to be actually writing newspaper articles, putting forth opinion pieces, like one would typically sort of experience in journalism. This is an English lesson, basically looking at how do you sort of, do role playing and play acting. And here we've got a language Setswana, so indigenous language in Winterveld in Gauteng, looking at how does she use Flipgrid, Kahoot, and as fun quizzes within her teaching and learning environment. So where there's no resources, she's actually going ahead and creating what that looks like. I'm now heading back very quickly to Riaan. Sorry for encroaching on your time, Riaan.
No problem. You're very much on good time, so no problem with that, Omashani. Ladies and gents, yeah, I think we had a storming run of amazing speakers and content shared. We saw what Matt did, but the enthusiasm and passion comes with the package. I think that's what's got to be seen in how he delivered it, but very practical using OneNote. Elsabe sharing with us which provinces has the agreement, and Elsabe, we've got two questions. The one is which provinces don't have it, and the other one is how can teachers, or can we confirm that all teachers, if they're in the provinces that they have? So Elsabe, I don't know if you're around to maybe answer that question for us. How can teachers just double check that they have the resources for themselves that you spoke about earlier? Just to confirm that. Is your mic open, Elsabe? Maybe just as a Q&A.
Yes.
Which provinces do not have it? Which provinces do not have it currently?
It's Limpopo and Northern Cape is not on that list, but they are currently in the process creating tenants. So it's only a matter of time. And if you're in any of the other 7, then chances are you have access to Office 365. You would just need to make contact with your Provincial Department of Education, either through e-learning or district IT support. They would be able to guide you. And then the 3 provinces details I shared was, I'll also make sure that we share the PDF and the forms link in the Q&A for people to get easy access to those right people to contact.
Okay, brilliant. And then, yeah, Susanna showed us all the wonderful ideas of how to get practical with devices. And I think something critical there is to ensure that we've got devices, number one. Number two, what can we do with those devices and what's more apt? And then Omashani, I love what you're doing in areas, the stories of teachers being innovative, integrating it into their lives, and then implementing, if I can use my own 3 I's at the beginning. We are not overwhelmed with questions at this point in time. I'm checking with the moderator to see if there's any questions that came through. At this point in time, we want to check quickly. Susanna, can you do the honors of drawing the name for the person that tweeted and the lucky winner of your coupon? Can I bring you in, Susanna?
Yes, I think we, the first person that tweeted was actually Brad Newman. Brad, if you are still on, you can maybe just type your details for us in the chat so that we can send you your prize. Congratulations.
Well done, that's amazing. And the crowd breaks out in huge applause. So thanks so much for that prize. We want to honor our